calling. But before we proceed, we would like to use the opportunity to please welcome the is it the attorney for I don't know, is it attorney for Biafra or Biafra for attorney? I don't know which one is which.
Thank you, Brother Namdi. Well, I'm called solicitor for Indigenous People of Biafra.
Yes.
I'm Barrister Emeka. So thank you for welcoming me to the program.
Thank you very much. And now that you're here, you heard what the last caller said about the application form he sent off to Owerri, which is the right thing to do. I think there is something that people want to clarify from a legal perspective. There are other people answering how many billions. There are people answering BILIE and confusing. People are a bit confused. This gentleman that called did the right thing. There are people confused. The people are setting up BILIE, fraudulent BILIE everywhere. BILIE, and because we've shortened our name to BILIE. It should be BILIE Human Rights Initiative. So to distinguish it from other BILIEs, other people are forming BILIE, asking for money, asking for funding to help fund Radio Biafra. I don't know who sent them.
Well, the BILIE Human Rights Initiative, which we are carrying on with, has its headquarters at 90 Wedra Road, Owerri, Imo State, Nigeria.
Not in Austria or Spain or in US or in Houston or whatever.
So any person who is dealing with any BILIE that has no headquarters at number 90 Wedra Road, then is dealing with a fake one. So the constitution of BILIE Human Rights Initiative clearly specified that the headquarters of this organization must be at Owerri, and the organization is licensed to open branch offices in all parts of the world. This is what the federal government of Nigeria did. That is, federal government of Nigeria registered BILIE Human Rights Initiative as a human rights organization with power to open its branch offices in all parts of the world. It is a human rights organization with headquarters at number 90 Wedra Road, Owerri. So any person that is deceived, has himself to blame.
So yeah, so anybody that anybody that does not have authority from the headquarters
Road, yes,
is on his own.
Yes,
that is just the message we want to,
Thank you very much, because anywhere you see www.bilie, which is not BILIE Human Rights Initiative, please know that it is fake, it is fraudulent, it is not the right BILIE. Wonderful listeners, great people, great Biafrans, wherever you are in the world, we are welcoming you to this edition of the News Hour, coming to you from Radio Biafra in London. I'm Nnamdi Khan. I'm your regular host, and I have with me in the studio today Barrister Imam Mezu. Initiative, you come to Radio Biafra website. Any other BILIE you are seeing online, any other BILIE you are seeing that is not through Radio Biafra is a fake BILIE and is not the proper one. Please do not give
self.
Thank you very much, because anywhere you see www.bilie, which is not BILIE Human Rights Initiative, please know that it is fake, it is fraudulent, it is not the right BILIE. The BILIE
He said he wants to record it, because I said record everything I'm saying. Record everything I'm saying, and I'm also going to put it in writing. Record everything I'm saying, and I'm also going to put it in writing.
Okay, go ahead.
Some time ago, about 2010, maybe when I check my records, one person wrote to me an email, Dr. Jesse Madu. I have never known him before. He wrote an email to me and said he would like a private discussion with me, private correspondence with me. I wrote back and said, please, who are you? Jesse Madu, MP. Who are you? Are you Jesse Madu of Enugu campus? Are you the one I met in the university? He said, no, he didn't study in Nigeria, he didn't study in Enugu campus, But that he had heard about me through my works in the Igbo Lawyers Forum, Igbo World Forum, and all the postings I made that he had seen, and that's why he wanted to contact me. I said, fine. Please be patient and listen very well. I said, what is all about? He wrote me another letter and said that he would like me to be their lawyer. I said, who are you? He said that they have formed an organization in Europe called Biafra Liberation in Europe, BILIE, B-L-I-E, BILIE. I said, okay, and I started asking him, what are your intentions, what are your objectives, and so on. He talked about the actualization of Biafra, and he would like me to be their lawyer. I said, okay. I looked at the whole thing. I said, okay, the first thing I will do is I'm going to change this your name, because BILIE means nothing. I want something that people will understand. He said, what will I do? I now said, okay, I'm going to change this thing to BILIE. He wrote back to me and said, what's the meaning of BILIE? I said, it means stand up, because I think in their own place, they either call it kunye or other versions of in Igbo language, kind of synonyms, other synonyms. I told him that BILIE means stand up or arise. He now said, okay. He would talk with his members. I said, how many of you? He said there were about 5 members. After that, he now came back to me and said they have accepted the name, BILIE. I said, fine. The next thing you should do now is register this as Biafra Liberation in Europe, BILIE. Register it in any country that is a member of the United Nations. Just register in a country first. So they said, okay, the country they will register is in Austria, that they will register in Austria. I said, fine, Austria is a member of the United Nations. Then they registered it in Austria as Biafra Liberation in Europe, then acronym BILIE, in Austria, and sent the thing to me. I said, fine. What I'll do now is to approach the United Nations and register this as Indigenous People Organization. That's under as an NGO, as a non-governmental organization, as Indigenous People Organization under the United Nations. And then you can now start from there, putting other things in place for actualization of Biafra. So the first stage was set. And I called them later, said, after my interaction with some UN officials, I called them later and said, the word Europe is restricting the activities. Biafra Liberation in Europe confines it to Europe. Therefore, I have been advised that the best thing is to make it global. Don't call it Europe. We need to change that name, remove the word Europe. They also accepted. And we started brainstorming to find a name to replace that Europe and still maintain the E. I think it was this Okechukwu who, because we are suggesting so many things that end will start with E. I think it was Okechukwu who said, why don't you say it is exile, Biafra Liberation in exile? One other person said, why don't you say Biafra Liberation everywhere, E? so eventually they now accepted the word exile, and we now call it Biafra Liberation in exile. I said, fine, go back to Austrian government and amend it, and let me have the certificate again, so that I can now go back to the United Nations and amend the same thing, which was done. Fine. The first step, I now told them, say, we have not yet arrived. That you cannot be in exile and affect the lives of the people on the ground. That we need to have an organization in Nigeria, registered in Nigeria. They said they don't want to have anything to do with Nigerian government. Listen very well. That Nigerian government, everything is corrupt, the law is corrupt, the system is corrupt, that they don't want to register any organization in Nigeria. In the first place. No, of course, in the first place, Nigerian government will not register anything in Biafra. Of course, you know that. But even then, they don't want to have any dealings with Nigerian government or Nigerian system because everything is corrupt. So the way they sounded, I knew that they would not understand what I was doing. I left them. I went home. I traveled home and conducted a research. In the whole place, the only organization they knew was MASOB. Then I told them that we want there are some Biafrans in exile who have not come back, and they want to do something to actualize Biafra. It's not only MASOB that is the organization. When I mentioned that there are some Biafrans in exile, one of them said, okay, that he has heard about those in exile, government in exile. He has heard about it. I said, yes. Biafra, have you heard about Biafra government in exile? He said he has heard about it. But what are they doing in exile? Why don't they come home here and help us? I said, okay, fine. Since you have heard about that, okay, I am working for the government in exile. I said that to attract his attention. I said, fine. Since you've heard about government in exile, good, I'm their lawyer. I've come to work for them. We want to now bring the government from exile to Biafra land. So when I said that, I got their attention. Then they started listening to me. So I now started like evangelism, talking to some people. And I selected the people I was talking to. I targeted professionals. Doctors, lawyers, the academics, the intellectuals. I was able to get Professor Uche Ikanyibe. I got Navy Captain Ejofo. I got Dr. Charles Uja. I got Barrister Odemena. Doctors, lawyers, barristers, intellectuals. I got them and said, let us have a human rights organization that can fight for the rights of our people. All of them bought the idea. So what I now did was, I now went to Corporate Affairs Commission and applied for a name, for approval of a name. And I now, instead of making it open for them to know what I was doing, I filled a form. I said I want to register a name called BILIE Human Rights Initiative. So the first thing was they put a query on the word BILIE. That what is BILIE Human Rights Initiative? What is BILIE? I said BILIE means stand up. It means stand up. The person in charge there was a Yoruba man. I said it means stand up. You can inquire, you can ask people around. So they made their verification and it was correct. They approved it. This thing I was doing, the people in Europe never knew because they will never agree that anything should be registered under the Nigerian government. Fine. When I came back, that was when I now told them what I did. When I came back, I told them, I have applied for registration of a human rights organization in the name of BILIE Human Rights Initiative. And I told them the persons, I mentioned the names of the persons. I also introduced them, even gave them the numbers, telephone numbers of the people. Professor Uche Ikanyibe. Of course, JC Mad has met him because the forms, the BILIE membership forms, I instructed him to hand over to Professor Ikanyibe. But later, now handed over to somebody before I went home. Good. So, eventually, when I now came back and told them what has happened, the first reaction was this. Okay, how would they be in Europe and run the one at home? Okay, let the people I have, all those intellectuals I gathered at home, let them register it. That they don't want to do it, let them register it at home. I said no. If we don't give a support and show that we are with them, they will not be able to go ahead. I remember that Dr. Afamefle clearly said, no, how can he be in Europe and be running something? That after all those intellectuals I have gathered, they should continue. I said no. Because I'm a pastor. I'm a church planter. When I go and plant a church, I can't just plant that church and say, okay, I just do a one-day crusade. After one day crusade, I run away and say, oh, you people continue. The church will collapse immediately. So before I leave a church, I must have stayed in that church for some years, gather them, train them, and then hand over and go to another country, another place. I said, I'm a church planter. I know how to start organizations. So we will have to give support. So when I said, we are going to, I have to, look at the approval has been given. That was when they now said, okay, let it be one BILIE. It's okay, let it be one BILIE. When they say, okay, let it be one BILIE, that was why when I now went home, I now filled the form and put their names along with my name and Barrister Innocent Ugoke, who I planned it with. That was how I put their names. I would have filled my name, I filled Uche Kanyiba, filled Dr. Uja, with others. I would have filled their, but because they said, okay, let it be one BILIE. And I filled the form. I filled the form and put the name of Achike, name of Jessica, name of and my name, and that's all. Otherwise, I would have filled the form and put Ikanyibe, Chasoja, Odemene, and so on. And I filled their form. So, okay, since they've now understood what I'm doing, fine, we went ahead. The initial expenses were borne by me. But the later expenses, Jesse Madu brought the money. It cost us a lot of money. Of course, for you to incorporate is not an easy thing. But we're all doing it and making sacrifices because without zeal, we're making sacrifice without zeal. I never knew that this would come to this. Otherwise, I would have been very strict from the beginning to take record of everything or every expense. But we're doing it as we're doing for our people, sacrifices. Okay, fine. Now that it has come to this level, then I say, okay, it is an arm of the one in Austria.
It's not wrong to think that way because you're still acting on their behalf anyway. You were doing it for BILIE, and BILIE is for the people. So at the end of the day, it still boils down to the same thing. Yeah. Regardless of whether you have your regrets, they are still the senior officials. And this is something you might have to take to the general meeting the way I'm looking at it.
Go ahead. Sir.
Well, it's for you to understand the genesis, how everything started and how everything has come. For you to understand. Now, we have registered BILIE Human Rights Initiative in Nigeria. With headquarters in Nigeria, in Owerri, Nigeria. And the constitution of, and the organization has a constitution registered, and a copy of that constitution is with the government of Nigeria. And the rule is that everything that should be done must be done according to that constitution. But the one in Europe, I remember this question. I remember this. When they registered that thing in Austria, I asked them a question. So, where is the constitution you used in registering this in Austria? They said they have no constitution. That they didn't submit a constitution to the government. I said, what about their board of trustees in Austria? No. I said, what then did you register? Didn't you produce a constitution, board of directors, these things we use in filing for incorporation? They said, no, there is the way they do it in Austria is different from the way other countries do it. I said, well, it's possible. I said, well,
I think they have a code of conduct.
I said, well,
which I have a copy of.
Well, I said, well, if that is what you submitted, fine, no problem. But I know how companies or associations or organizations are incorporated. There must be board of trustees, and there must be constitution, all those things that the government says are fine. Now, it is this Biafra liberation in exile, registered in Austria, that I put in the United Nations, remember? Mm-hmm. Okay, now, the next phase of the registration of this organization in the UN will require the constitution of that body and will require the audited accounts of that body and other requirements, the publications, and so many other requirements. At this stage now, I have asked them, what about your constitution, the one you used in registering in Austria? Is that the code of conduct that is the constitution?
Yes.
Okay, fine. If they send it to the UN. Okay, if that is sent to the UN and the UN says that is the...
I don't know where it's been sent. We requested for it.
Okay, fine. That's okay. Fine, that's okay. If that is what
No, but I thought I saw something that was circulated on the internet a while ago.
That is what I remember the day you said.
And then I gave it.
A lot of people came here to take something away from this meeting.
So please let us not distract. No
distraction.
distraction. Let me just finish what I've said. So this is how the human rights organization was formed. And this human rights organization is based in Nigeria. Headquarters is in Owerri. That is what it is. And this is where I stand.
Because, let me continue. Hold on. No, excuse please. My question now is it feasible to register BILIE in this country? Yes. That's a question.
Yeah, I told you when I started here, I said any organization registered outside the country can still be registered in.
Can we now adopt that and move on? Now, the next question would be, how do we go about it? You've given us instances of ways to do it.
Business name, different.
So whatever it is. So can we adopt that? Yes, we can register BILIE in this country and move ahead.
No, why would you register as that to ally as well?
No, it's not. There's no.
No, but you see, okay. Let me come down. Let me come down, please. Please.
Which general meeting are you talking about?
The one you just held.
Please.
Why did you bring this issue?
Please. My own. I have just given you genesis how this thing started, and I've told you that it is possible. Like Shell, there's Shell Nigeria Limited.
Yeah, there's Shell UK, yes.
There's Shell UK. So if you want, you can also register BILIE UK. It is possible. But Okonjo is saying, since the people in Austria are kicking against it.
It's not people in Austria. It is the fact that your officials have not agreed. So if you can't get your officials to agree, get the other countries or other affiliates.
Well, as it is
drive
now,
your officials to
listen,
agree.
as it is now, BILIE Human Rights Initiative, that is a human rights organization, is what I am talking about.
Yes, and who are the leaders in that one?
It's
the same people you put, so you cannot overrule them.
Thank you. Excuse me.
Unless you put yourself as a senior post there.
Question.
We called a meeting in London. People came from US. People came from all over Europe, from Austria, from Spain, from Germany, from Holland, from Italy. They couldn't start Radio Biafra. They did not start it. Uche Mefo took me to one side and said, forget these people, let's go and start Radio Biafra. And this is where we are today.